It's another amazing day that the Lord has made, and my name is Mungai Dennis, and this is Mungasodes 2. Thank you for joining. Uh, so, like I said last time, if you've not watched the first episode, kindly go to Mungasode 1. This is Mungasode 2. So, like I said last time, I'll be sharing my wisdom on this podcast through explaining some of the poems that I've written in the past years of my life. And today I have an amazing spoken word piece that we're going to discuss that really, really touched my life. You don't have to try so hard. You have to try so hard. You don't have to try so hard. So confusing, right? The kind of world we're living in right now is really, really confusing as vijana. The kind of world we're living in right now is really confusing for us youth. And I feel like we are always tumbling into things that we should do and things we shouldn't do. And it's really confusing. What should I do? What shouldn't I do? Where am I and where am I not? And today's podcast is very favorable of you because on this Mungahsode 2, I'm going to explain an epic spoken word poem titled At 25. So if you've not heard the spoken word piece, it's on my YouTube channel in my and in my kind of album. It's called the 24 years of a 24 years as a slave, and at 25 basically explains that after 24 years there are things I'm experiencing and things I'm learning and things I thought I learned that I haven't really learned. And yeah, I'm really joyful to be doing this. uh, At 25, you realize you can't take back the decisions you've made as a boy because you want to be 17 again. You realize that time flies and it goes with the ones that honor it. You realize that you can't be young again. You just end endlessly. And we're all in that space. When you get to 25, as that first verse of that spoken word poem has said, when you get to 25, you start to figure stuff out. You start to wish that there is a way you can take time back and undo some of the things you've done and say some of the things you've said because you're no longer proud of the things you've done and no longer proud of the things you've said. And you're in a box. You're feeling like you're in a box. You need to live your life in a certain way, like there is a way you should have lived your life. I live on a I live just next to an airport, so many aeroplanes are going to keep passing, and you're going to hear some aeroplane sounds in my recordings. But I hope you're going to be with me regardless. Yes, as I was saying that there is a way you were told you should look like as an adult, and you're growing up, and you're not becoming that image, and you wish you can take time back and be that image, but you're not becoming that image. And you start to feel like someone should have warned you so that you honor time, like the friends you saw spending their time on, you know, things that matter, on things that actually can transform your life. But apparently, you're not those friends. Apparently, you are not those friends, and there is no way you can become them, and there is no way they can become you. And life is happening to everyone around you, especially the people you thought you knew and whose destinies in some way you were like, this guy's gonna turn out this way, and this friend of mine is gonna turn out this way, but they don't turn out the way you imagined they were gonna turn out. And your life is not even turning out the way you want it to turn out. The people you thought wouldn't make it, some of them are actually making it. Some of them are doing bigger things at that age, and You thought you were gonna be where they are because you've tried to live your life by the book that you were told that this is how you should live your life. But apparently, that's just not it. It's not working out for you that way. Yeah, so you can't be young again, and age is catching up with you. And you have these impressions that at 25, I should have accomplished this with my life. At this age, I should have accomplished this with my life. And it's not happening for you. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm just saying this is the reality. Let's continue with the poem because I'm not here to tell you, I don't, well, I'm here to share what I did with my life to the best of my ability. I didn't figure it out like some of you would expect. It didn't turn out as perfectly, but I'm doing something. I'm trying to do something with it. And I'm really glad that I'm where I am. I'm happy and grateful to God for the community He has surrounded me with. And I have so many things to be grateful for. Yeah, so at 17, they told you that despite your mistakes, you are still too young and you got so much time ahead of you. At 25, you realize that taking the reins of your own life is a little bit too late. You shouldn't have been too over dependent on your parents because in the long run, you became the worm and not the bad. You're what's eaten and not what eats. Wow. It's amazing what I was writing at 24, 25 there. Yeah, so reading these lines is just awakening some feelings. And I'm just like, what do I have to say? I've not made it yet. Okay. But I think, and I'm starting to believe that I'm successful where I am because I believe in myself. I believe in what I'm capable of. I believe in what God is about to do in my life. And I'm not trusting God for more money to imagine that that's how He makes me more successful. I'm trusting God to have enough resources to sustain me at this stage that I'm in my life right now. And that's all I want. I don't have to be the richest person my age right now to feel like I'm where I need to be. And I think those are some of the bubbles you need to burst so that they don't make you tumble on your way to living out your great destiny that God predestined for you even before time. And I feel like this time is better spent asking God, what should I do with my life? What should I do with my life? Because even me, I'm in that stage of God, what should I do with my life? What should I do with my life? Because I also don't want to, go wrong. I want to live out my life for Him. I want to live a life that glorifies Him. And it's not any easy for me. It's not any easy for me because the burdens I had put on my own shoulders, I felt like I should be funny to be acceptable online on doing such a podcast. I felt like I need to impress you so that you can be my audience. But right now, I know that funny is not any is not exactly an adjective that's going to be describing me anytime soon, and I'm peaceful with that. I've made peace with that, and I'm taking the reins of my own life. Even now, I've not fully taken the reins of my own life. I'm still depending on my parents. According to my society, I shouldn't be at my age. I shouldn't be. According to the society I'm being raised in. But I am. So the last line in that verse says, you realize that you became the worm and not the bird. You're what's eaten and not what eats. And what I'm trying to say here is that in business, as long as you're selling, someone else is buying. And if someone is buying, you're making profit. But as long as you are buying and you're not making profit anywhere else, it means you just like, you're what the rich are getting richer with, and there is nothing that you're adding to yourself. And I'm not trying to give anyone pressure. I'm just trying to say that that's what I realized about my life at 25. Yeah. So at 17, they told you that they got you. And at 25, they're wondering what you're doing with your own life to let life pass you by. They're worried that if you don't pay rent for yourself now, then when will you ever do? At 25, they teach you lessons they should have taught you straight out of high school. Your parents realized they were a little too soft on you, so you didn't turn out to be what they expected you to be. They were fully convinced that you were watching, only to realize that they were watching you edge with the instincts to beg for bread and more bread. They were fully convinced that you were watching out, only to realize that they were watching you edge with the instincts to beg for bread and more bread and not provide for yourself like a real man or woman in that time. At 25, the only thing they saw you provide for your own self were breadcrumbs. Whew. Yeah, this poem has really some real statement in there, and it's really getting into my head, and I'm like, yo, I think I still carry some of these insecurities, and it's just by the grace of God that I'm like, yo, you're not putting me down, you're not putting me down, you're not putting me down. I don't have to be where you say I have to be at. I'm comfortable. I'm not exactly comfortable where I am, but I'm grateful to God for where I am. Because I know that I'm not comfortable where I am, so I'm working to be somewhere else better than where I am. Yeah. So this verse says, you your parents told you you're young, no pressure, don't chase after money, kindly study first. You'll get money after studying, you'll get a good job, good life. And now they're worried that you're 25 and you can't even pay rent for yourself. You're out of campus and you're not providing for yourself. And at 25, they're starting to tell you things, and you're like, oh God, they should have told me these things straight out of high school so that I get mentally prepared for what's to come. And now you're starting to learn business. Like for me, I started to learn business around that time in my life. L- like I'm seeing other youth in business. It's not that I didn't know business, but they told me to study. They told me to study, they encouraged me to study, and that I'll pursue money afterwards. And now I realize that they actually hoped I would, tell myself, hey, Mungai, you need to get some money for yourself, or else you're going to remain dependent on us, and that's not what we expect of you at your age. Yeah, so they're like, oh, we were too soft on this boy. We were too soft on this child. And they were watching you grow up, but not seeing you grow up in the way they expected, their uncommunicated expectations. Well, if you're if you've been raised and those expectations were communicated to you, well, be grateful to God. I hope you did something about it. And even if you haven't done much, I hope, like, you're walking aware that your life is now in your hands and it's mostly dependent on you. Yeah. So at 17, at 25, the only thing they saw you provide for your own self for breadcrumbs. Yeah, so you're starting to make little money here and there, and then you tell them, I'm from work, I was paid 1,000 shillings, and they're like, yo, what kind of money is that? They're expecting you to be paid something that's substantial enough to sustain you so that you don't ask them for their money because they're now looking after your siblings. But apparently that's not the way things went. Did it? Is it? No. So at 17, serving God looked like a service that would pay the bills. You were all into your own head about being a preacher, even if it meant to go hungry. At 25, you start to wonder where God is. You start to ask questions you should have asked as a child. You've known hunger and you're no longer sure you're willing to sleep on an empty stomach for Jesus. But despite not being with Jesus, you've been hungry and there are days you've lacked. You start to pray that what you know at 25 was what you knew at 17, because after all, you won't be young again. Wow. So, for those of us who are raised in Christian families, I want to believe that uh, you've had this urge to, grow up, serve God like your parents, or like some people that, that felt like the real role models for you. And right now, it doesn't make sense. You're not receiving any offerings, so you're not exactly eating from any plate. You're you're no longer even sure you wanna be a preacher anymore. You're like, yo, Jesus, I'm not sure I wanna go hungry for you. And in campus there are times we do things and you're like, oh God, I've backslid. And even in those times, you weren't with Jesus. You still lacked. And you start to pray that what you know now is what you knew while you were a little younger. And I keep going back to 17 because I'm trying to believe that it's in that age that we leave high school and we start to, label things in the world as they are, starting to understand that actually the economies are falling or rising, and you need to work your way in between all those rubbles and make a life for yourself. And it's not getting any easier, it's not getting any harder, because you don't even know what you want to do exactly. You don't even know where you should belong in the first place. So I'm not certain whether you're relating to me, but if you're relating to me, I'm glad I could tell you that there is someone else who's going through the same thing. Yeah, because this is therapy for me. This is the therapeutic Christian poetry I write. So when I was a child, I spoke as a child, I understood as a child, I thought as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things. At 25, I took God more seriously than I did at my 17th birthday. I no longer did it to please my parents or crowds. I made the decisions. I made the decisions thinking that I still had time. I no longer believed that I was young. I no longer believed that I was young because time waits for no man. It flies, grows wings, and leaves your pocket at 22, tells you that it gave you enough time to grow, and now you are on grace period. At 26, you'll be a father, and your child won't be satisfied with breadcrumbs alone. So now at 25, you start to make prayers you should have made a little earlier. But it's never really too late, because God opens doors at their own times. But being childish won't ever be your game again, because you're all grown now and you stopped chasing the wind. Yo, wait, there's something. I keep saying that there are things in this spoken word that I still feel that are still real. There's some insecurities that are so realistic right now in my life. And I'm kind of playing guacamole with them. Like I'm hitting it here, and the other one is popping up in another hole, trying to hit this hole. They keep popping up, and one thing I'm realizing about this statement that I'm saying right now is that you grow up and you realize there is no happily ever after. Like you were just born to fight and fight and fight and fight. Like, oh God, I'm exhausted. And you're like, oh God, when is my seventh day coming? Like, where do I get to rest? And then you listen to the word and you realize that God actually made us to work. But work for a millennial like you and I, for a Generation Z, is not the most glamorous things unless, as we keep telling ourselves, you're doing what you love. And what are the things you love? Podcasting. And your parents will ask you, where's the money you're making from this? And you'll be like, I'm still building capacity. I've not yet gotten the enough number of followers. Yeah. And all through life, I'm learning that you keep on building capacity. Like, even if you start making money, you start paying the bills, there's still capacity you need for other spaces. Whoa. So, birthdays are no longer 25 birthdays are no longer what you look forward to. You look forward to them if you have money, if the societal expectation you can meet, and I mean by having enough money to throw a party. Do you have enough money to throw a party? How big is your party? And you keep on seeing people throw birthday parties, and I don't know whether it's me alone, but you start to feel like, yo, don't I have friends? Well, my friends, other people are getting surprise birthday parties. What about me? Yeah, so these are things you don't want to learn, but these are the realities of life. Oh, yeah, so time flies, it grows wings and leaves your pockets at 22. Yeah, so at 22, you're really unnerved because you don't even have a job. You're not making money, not even. Okay, I wasn't making any money. And if I ever made money, I remember there was this time I tried to do business and someone conned me money. I invested in his business and he vanished. And then he sent the twin to manage the business. And the twin kept telling me that I should wait for the brother to come. Yo. I don't know how that makes me feel. I just feel like, what? Life has really worked on me. Life has really thrashed me. It has really taught me things not in the way I wished it would have. I thought, the way we say I left school and I can do whatever I want. Sorry. Because no one can beat me now. No one can give me corporal punishment. And then now you realize that, yeah, you left school. No one can give you corporal punishment, but life can really thrash hard and so hard. Yeah. So at 26, you'll be a father. At that time, many of my friends were becoming baby daddies. And I was asking myself, what if that was my story? What could I do for that child? At 25, you start to make prayers you should have made a little earlier. It's never really too late. God opens doors at their own times. Yeah, God opens doors for people at their own time, but yo, God, I think your timing is not as exquisite as I want it to be. I think, yeah, you're a little too late. I'm getting killed out here. So you're prayerful about the things you should have been prayerful for, but you feel like you should have prayed about those things a little earlier. So at this point, you won't be childish again, and you'll stop chasing the wind. And I'm assuming, like our parents are encouraging us to do, we shall start chasing the bag. And the bag, mind you, for some of us feels like that thing we don't want to go after, because I'm like, I want to serve people. I want to do things from my heart. I don't want to do it because of the money. I want to give back. But there is only so much when you can give when you don't understand what you have that you can give. I no longer say that you have nothing to give. You might not have money, but I think what I've learned by this point in my life is that there's a way you can make resources come out of people's pockets, and you just haven't figured it out how. So the how comes later, and I feel like it comes at God's appointed time, because if you have the money soon, you could waste it, and if you have it later, you'll be a better steward of it. Also, I'm trusting God that you will be. So this is the last part of it. Fire, 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 fire fall on me, like the day of Pentecost. Fire fall on me. This is a verse from a song, and I wrote this part because I felt like life was really giving me a thrashing, and I was like, oh God, if only the Holy Spirit could fall on me so that he could give me strength to continue carrying this body of pain. Those who provide for themselves at 25 knew lack at 18, and by 22 they were starting to get the hang of things and understand how the world works. So dust up 25, you got your whole life ahead of you. You do, and God got you. So this spoken word piece, I didn't write it for you to listen to it once and be like, yo, it's amazing. I wrote it so that you could listen to it the first time, get something, second time, get something. Because I feel like every time you listen to this spoken word piece, even for me, there are things that are coming to light that are helpful right now in my life that I'm understanding differently in this stage of my life. And I'm trusting God that you listen to it a couple of times and see the things that I relate to, that you're going through, and also see the valuable lessons in the things that I've gone through and how they're making me a better man for this kingdom of God, because the kingdom of God is already here. Yeah, so you realize that there are things you had to wait. Probably there are those who are above 25, and that's when they're learning the things I'm speaking about. You're either way older or way younger, and God's taking you through this process that He took me through back then. And that's the point for you when you're learning about these things. And you don't have to worry anymore. You don't have to allow the societal expectations to control your own expectations of yourself. Like someone said to me a couple of weeks back, be a little gentle with yourself, be a little, you know, go a little soft on yourself. You've already done so much trying to get somewhere that you never really got to. And maybe it's just time you sit down, pause, reflect, and ask God, what does He want to do with your life? When 2023 began for me, I was like, God, I want to have the faith I used to have as a child, where I'm just trusting you, that I don't know what is going to follow, but I'm going to do the things you ask me to do until you take me where you want me to. And I saw someone say, right on their IG, something I wrote on my WhatsApp page a little while back, that God has you where He wants you, and He has me where He wants me. And that's the most comforting statement I've ever heard. I'm not encouraging you to be lazy. I'm not encouraging you to be lousy about where you are. I'm just asking you to lean in on God a little bit more, so that He can reveal that which He has in store for you. And those who are leaning in on God, you have your whole life ahead of you. And just because you did everything by the books and they didn't turn out the way you wanted them to, that doesn't mean that God has forgotten you. They say that the things that are hidden are the things that are more valuable. And I'm believing that God has hidden you until such a time as this message will make sense to you, so that He starts to reveal the beautiful parts of the flower that you are. That you've been having the leaves all around you. And now that the sun is shining, He wants you to reveal all your beautiful petals, because you're way more beautiful than you could ever imagine. You're way more amazing than you could ever think. Because where we put ourselves can't ever match where God has put us. And as long as we keep listening in to God, we keep learning who we really are. And it doesn't matter where you are at 25, at 30 plus, or lower. All that matters is, do you trust God to take you where He wants to take you next?